Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell all for more updates and more videos. What am I going to share is about the 1896 Philippine Revolution and the founding of the Katipunan. In the days following the arrest of Dr. Jose Rizal, who is our national hero, some patriotic Filipinos were convinced that the call for reforms had already failed. They knew that the Spaniards would never implement social and political reforms in the country. Although they recognized the great contribution of the propagandists, they believed that the revolution for independence was the only solution to end the tyrannical Spanish rule in the Philippines. On July 7, 1892, Andres Bonifacio led the founding in Manila of a nationalistic and revolutionary society that aimed to oust the Spaniards. This secret society was the Katipunan or the Kataas-Taasang Kagalang-galang Katipunan ng Anak Bayan. That's the meaning of KKK. Bonifacio co-founders were Ladislao Diwa, Diosdado Arellano, Valentin Diaz, Teodoro Plata, and many others. They were former members of La Liga Filipina and were greatly influenced by the nationalistic ideals of the propaganda movement. La Liga Filipina was also a group founded by Dr. Jose Rizal. Most of them were also Freemasons, members of the secret society that believe in the ideals of freedom, equality, and liberty. The Katipunan Organization included the Kataas-Taasang Sangguniang Supreme Council, the Sangguniang Bayan Provincial Council, and the Sangguniang Barangay Council. It is also a judicial council known as the Sangguniang Hukuman. The Katipunan Election in 1892, the first Supreme Council members were Diosdado Arellano as President, Supremo, Andres Bonifacio as Comptroller, Ladislao Diwa as Fiscal, Teodoro Plata as Secretary, and Valentin Diaz as Treasurer. In 1893, new members of the Katipunan were elected. These were Roman Basa as President, Andres Bonifacio as Fiscal, Jose Turino Santiago as Secretary, Vicente Molina as Treasurer, and Restituto Javier, Teodoro Plata, Ladislao Diwa, Bricio Brigado, Pantas, and Teodoro Gonzales as councilors. Emilio Jacinto was known as the brains of Katipunan, formulated the Cartilia of the Katipunan. The Cartilia was a primer for a new member of the secret organization. In 1895, Andres Bonifacio replaced Roman Basa as Supremo. He held the position until the Tejeros Convention in Cavite, established in revolutionary government in 1897. Katipunan membership. The new members of the Katipunan were first recruited through the so-called triangle method, as you can see in the picture. This was designed to protect the identity of Katipuneros. In this method, a Katipunero would recruit two people who do not know each other. Their only contact was the one who recruited them. Once a recruit was accepted in the society, he would be initiated through a blood compact to show his commitment. He should also be willing to pay the membership fee. By the end of 1892, the leadership of the Katipunan noticed that recruitment of members was progressing very slowly. Because of this, they changed their policy and started permitting Katipuneros to recruit as many new members as possible. However, they cautioned that maintaining secrecy should still be the foremost rule. After the few months, the membership of the Katipuneros increased. The Katipuneros were classified as 3 ranks and each rank used a password. For Katipon, for the new member, it's first grade, anak ng bayan. For Kawal, for the second grade, and the password is Gomburza. Gomburza means the three priests who were executed: Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora. The third one is Bayani, or the third grade, and the password is Rizal. Now we also have the women of the Katipunan. The women membership of the Katipunan was first composed of the relatives of Katipuneros, propagandists, and Freemasons. This was strictly imposed to keep the society secret. The first women auxiliary group of the Katipunan was established in 1893. Among the first Katipuneras were Grigoria de Jesus, Marina Dizon, and Jose Rizal's sister, Josefa Rizal and Trinidad Rizal. The women Katipuneros played important role during the early stage of Katipunan. Their works consisted of keeping important documents, concealing the Katipuneros during the important meetings, and propagating the ideals of the Katipunan. Grigoria de Jesus, who became Andres Bonifacio's wife, later proved to be an important member of the society. When she served as official keeper of the Katipuneros' important documents, she was also head of the women's chapter of the Katipunan. She also made a simple red flag for the Katipunan, which is the KKK, as you can see in the picture. Marina Dizon also guarded Katipunan documents. She became the women group secretary, and she also helped in the recruitment of many women members. Melchiora Aquino, also known as Tandang Sora, was considered the mother of the Katipunan. She greatly helped the Katipuneros during the revolution. She not only welcomed the revolutionaries into her home but also attended to their medical needs, especially to the wounded Katipuneros. Teresa Magbanuan, known as the Visayan Joan Arc, was a member of the Panay branch of Katipunan. She led some successful military attacks against the Spaniards. Trinidad Texon was an important member of the Katipunan. She showed outstanding dedication to the ideals of the Katipunan. She became a general and led attacks against the Spaniards at Biak na Bato in Bulacan. Khalayan. The Khalayan was official publication of the Katipunan. It first came out in March 1896. It contained the revolution ideas and organization. The writers of the Khalayan used pen names to conceal their identities from the Spanish authorities. Andres Bonifacio used the pen name or alias as Agapito Bagumbayan. Emilio Jacinto used Pinky Ann and Dimas Ilaw, while Dr. Pio Valenzuela used Madlang Awa. Emilio Jacinto was the editor of the Kalayaan. Although the Kalayaan did not last long, it was successful in attracting new members to the Katipunan. Discovery of the Katipunan. Before the end of 1895, the Spanish authorities already suspected that there was a secret society leading a revolutionary cause against them. But except for the rumors, they lacked evidence to prove its existence. In August 1896, the quarrel between Katipuneros Teodoro Patino and Apolinario de la Cruz finally led the discovery of the Katipunan. At that time, they were both working in Diario de Manila printing office. It was said that Patino revealed the existence of the Katipunan to his sister, who lived in an orphanage in Manila. Upon hearing the story, Patino's sister cried. This was overheard by a man who wasted no time to find out what upset Patino's sister. After being forced to retell his story, Patino was asked to confess to Father Mariano Hill, the parish priest in Tondo, Manila. Immediately after hearing Patino's confession, Father Hill went to the Spanish authorities. On the On August 19, 1896, they raided the printing shop of Diario de Manila, where they discovered enough evidence about the existence of Katipunan. Before the day ended, the Spanish authorities raided homes and arrested alleged members of the secret organization. Those arrested along with Apolinario de la Cruz were Roman Basa, Teodoro Plata, Vicente Molina, Hermenegildo de los Reyes, Jose Trinidad, Pedro Nicodemus, Feliciano del Rosario, Gervasio Samson, and Doroteo Dominguez. They were imprisoned and later executed by firing squad on February 6, 1897. Cry of Pugadlawin. On the day the Katipunan was discovered, Andres Bonifacio moved to Balintawak to avoid arrest. He also ordered the Katipuneros to go to Balintawak for a meeting. 2 days later, hundreds of Katipuneros who arrived in Balintawak went to Sitio Kongkong. On the following day, the group moved to Sitio Pugadlawin. On August 23, 1896, the Katipuneros met at the yard of Juan Ramos, the son of Melchiora Aquino, and held a meeting presided by Andres Bonifacio. In that meeting, the Katipuneros shouted their commitment to the revolution. As a symbol of this pledge, they brought out their cedulas and tore them to pieces while shouting the words, "Long live the Philippines," and "Long live the Katipunan." This event was dubbed in the historians of the city of Pugadlawin. This event marked the declaration of war against the Spanish colonial government. The outbreak of the Philippine Revolution. On August 25, 1896, the first revolutionary encounter happened in Sitio Pasong Tamo in Caloocan. When the Spaniards gained the upper hand, Bonifacio and his men retreated to Marikina and then moved to San Mateo, Rizal. In the following days, the revolution spread to the neighboring provinces of Manila. In the response, the Spaniards terrorized the Philippine arresting civilians. Many victims were either detained, tortured, killed, and banished. This included the wealthy Filipino like Francisco Rojas, Telesforo Chuidian, and Jacinto Limhap. They were executed on January 11, 1897 at Bagumbayan Field. On August 27, Andres Bonifacio called the people to join the revolution. He also warned any person who would work against the cause of the revolution would be disregarded to the traitor and an enemy of the people. During that time, Bonifacio already planned to attack Manila. But because Manila was heavily guarded and there were lack of firearms and ammunition, the plan was not carried out. They attacked the garrison in San Juan instead. Execution of Jose Rizal. In 1896, before the outbreak of the revolution, Rizal was accepted to work as a doctor in the Spanish army in Cuba. When the Katipunan was discovered, he was already on his way to Spain. He was implicated in the revolution and was ordered to be detained in Spain. He was deported to Manila to face the trial for the charges of masterminding the revolution. It was worth noting that when Rizal was still an exile in Dapitan, Andres Bonifacio and his councilors decided to enlist his support for the revolution. On August 30, 1896, Governor-General Ramon Blanco placed Manila under martial law as well as their provinces of Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Bulacan, Pampanga, Tarlac, and Nueva Ecija. These were the 8 provinces that revolted against the Spaniards. These places are now symbolize the 8 rays of the sun in the Philippine flag. He was sentenced to die by firing squad. On December 30, 1896, he was executed at Bagumbayan Field in Manila. The execution of Rizal added fire to the revolution. After his death, the Katipuneros often shouted in battles the word, "Mabuhay ang Katagalugan, mabuhay si Dr. Jose Rizal." To get Rizal's opinion, Andres Bonifacio sent Pio Valenzuela to the Pitan. During their talk, Rizal told Valenzuela that the Filipinos were not yet ready and the time was not yet ripe for a revolution. In the later part of 1896, the court ruled that Rizal was guilty of having a hand in the revolution. The Magdalo faction wanted to transform the Katipunan into revolutionary government. This idea was opposed by the Magdiwang faction. As the result of this disagreement, the Katipuneros from one faction refused to reinforce the Katipuneros from the other faction during battles. Because of this, the Katipunan in Cavite suffered from losses. In December 1896, Andres Bonifacio was requested to help solve a conflict between two factions. However, the call for the two factions to unite was disregarded. Katipunan factions in Cavite. Before the end of 1896, Cavite became the center of the revolution. When the Spaniards started to destroy large forces in Cavite, the Katipuneros suffered heavy losses. Worse, the Katipunan in Cavite split into two factions: the Magdiwang faction headed by Mariano Alvarez and the Magdalo faction headed by Baldomero Aguinaldo. Contrary to what Bonifacio expected, the meeting turned into a convention. The members of the Magdalo faction moved to establish a revolutionary government that would replace the Katipunan. Caught in the situation of Bonifacio, decided to preside over the convention. During the proceedings, the election of the officials of the revolutionary government was proposed. In the election, Bonifacio lost the presidency to Emilio Aguinaldo, who was then a popular revolutionary figure in Cavite. Mariano Trias was elected as vice president, Artemio Ricarte as captain general, and Emilio Regio de Jesus as director of war. The Tejeros Convention. In 1897, Andres Bonifacio was again invited to Cavite to mediate between the Magdalo and Magdiwang factions. He also expected a discussion on the revolutionary actions in Cavite to avoid more losses. The meeting was held in March 1897 at Tejeros, San Francisco de Malabon, now General Trias. On the day after the Tejeros Convention, Andres Bonifacio issued a revolutionary explaining his reasons why he was not honoring the result of the Tejeros Convention. He then went to Naik, Cavite, and issued a military agreement stating that formulation of another government. When Andres Bonifacio was elected as the Director of the Interior, Daniel Tirona, a member of the Magdalo faction, protested against Bonifacio's election. He reasoned that Bonifacio was not qualified for the position because of his low educational background. Angered by the lack of respect for his person as the founder of Katipunan, Bonifacio angrily declared that the result of the convention were null and void. During the arrest, Andres Bonifacio, brother Ciriaco, was shot dead, and his other brother Procopio was wounded. On May 4, 1897, the Bonifacio brothers faced the trial under Revolutionary Court in Municipality of Maragondon, Cavite. This court judged Bonifacio and brother guilty in treason and sentenced them to death. The death of Andres Bonifacio. Because of an Andres Bonifacio defiance of the new revolutionary government created by Emilio Aguinaldo and his followers, Aguinaldo ordered the arrest of Andres Bonifacio. Then Aguinaldo's men reached camp of Bonifacio and they announced their presence through a gunshot. After hearing the shots, Bonifacio went out and investigate and asked Aguinaldo's men why they had to fire at their brothers who were fighting for the same cause. The arresting officer ignored Bonifacio. The Republic of Biak na Bato. By December 1896, the Spaniards had heightened their military campaign against the revolutionaries. In May 1897, Cavite was recaptured by the Spaniards. This forced Aguinaldo and his men to move from Cavite to Batangas. They later retreated to San Miguel, Bulacan, where he established headquarters. They were joined by other groups of Katipunan from other parts of the Central Luzon. On May 10, 1897, Andres Bonifacio and his brother Procopio were executed in Maragondon, Cavite. With Bonifacio's death, the leadership of the revolution was effectively fully transferred to the hands of Emilio Aguinaldo. The death of Bonifacio was followed by the defeat of the forces of Aguinaldo. Eventually, Cavite fell into the hands of the Spaniards. Pact of Biak na Bato. From August to November 1897, Pedro Paterno mediated a truce between the revolutionaries and the Spanish government. This truce was known as the Pact of Biak na Bato. July 1897, Aguinaldo established a republican government at Biak na Bato in Bulacan. This became known as the Biak na Bato Republic. In Biak na Bato Constitution, they declared the separation of the Philippines from Spain. Written in this constitution were the following words: the separation of the Philippines from the Spaniards' monarchy and their formation into the independent state with its own government called the Philippine Republic has been the end sought by the revolution in the existing war, begun on the 24th of August 1896. Under this peace treaty, Aguinaldo and some of his men would go into voluntarily exile in Hong Kong. In return, the Spanish government would pay them money in 3 installments as compensation for the Filipino victims of the war. On December 27, 1897, Aguinaldo and some leaders of the Katipunan left for Hong Kong. However, the truce eventually failed. Months after the signing of the peace agreement, fighting between Filipinos and Spaniards resumed. So that's all what I can share for today. Thank you very much for watching. And again, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit bell all for more videos and more updates. Thank you for watching.